What's up guys, Mr. Basie here, and today we're going to be doing some more Seduce Me 2 The Demon War. Now, first and foremost, I do want to say thank you guys so much for the love and support. I mean, literally coming back from so long, I expected there to be differences. I expected there to be, you know, people, for some people kind of being upset with me, or at least frustrated with the lack of uploads, because of course no one really knew what was going on before I told anyone, and so it's really surprised me, because Seduce Me was one of the very first videos I uploaded, and the support on that video and the videos after that have been nothing but positive. It's been insane. It really has been crazy to see that it's literally almost as if nothing ever happened. It's like it just picked up right where we left off, and I honestly couldn't have hoped for a better outcome. I honestly couldn't have hoped for a better return. Of course, I'm coming at this stronger than ever. I really am motivated to do even better than last time, despite the difference in circumstance and everything. So thank you guys so much for supporting me in what I do and what the Sage family is as a community, and again as a family as I see it, because you know, nothing really has greater proof to what I've always said about this community and who we are as Sages than a situation like this, where it can be a month, or I even believe a longer than that, and things would just pick up as if nothing ever happened, which is that's just amazing to me. So thank you guys so much for the love and support for that. You guys are awesome. In regards to the actual game here, the giveaway, people were asking about that. That was done in the previous video, not the one before this, but the one you know behind that one. I think it was Death by Ween Pieces, the one where I failed twice on Eric's playthrough. It was done towards the end of the video. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll correct myself. I'll put a little annotation if I am wrong, but I'm pretty sure VidServant Rise did win that giveaway. So VidServant Rise, if you're watching, you did win that. Of course, that individual does have until the end of this playthrough to claim it. Otherwise, there will be 2 codes given away. That's how we're going to work it. If that person doesn't claim it by the end of this playthrough, that's plenty of time, especially considering a month went by where I didn't upload anything. It's plenty of time. I think that person would have realized by now if they were going to claim it. So somebody else will get that code. There will be another giveaway chance for the code that person missed out on. And so you guys chose a trainer for next time, or for this time, and the overwhelming majority, by far, I mean massive, was Faye. Big time. So I'm actually kind of excited, because I'm not really big on Faye, like you guys know what I said about her before, but it'll be interesting to see what she actually trains us with. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let's just get it kicked off. All right, so here we go. We're on to, I don't know if it's later in the day or whatnot, but we're picking up, I guess, in the training hall, which it's weird, because I don't know if every single person trains here. Like maybe Sergeant is outside, because I know when we were training, we went off by ourselves in some freaking field or something, like behind the castle where the horses take a dump or something. And then, you know, we were training by ourselves, and then we saw Sergeant in the distance or something. So it's interesting that we've come here every single time with Saro, Shadow, or no, we didn't come here with Shadow. That's right. Huh. Maybe I'm just mistaken. All right. I reported to a large grand hall. Apparently, it was strictly to be used for Saro and Diana. But since training me for defense became a priority, I was given the room along with my trainer of choice, Faye. I didn't know what made me choose Faye. They were indeed a wild card choice. Who knew what I would learn from them? It's so, oh God, it's weird, man. They were obviously a fairy. But what kind of abilities did fairies have in this world? I could tell that they were nothing like the fairies in fantasy fairy tales. If they did, she'd be pretty useless. So the idea of learning about them became a tantalizing curiosity within me. Yeah, gross. That sounded more sexual than it needed to. As I arrived, I saw Faye flutter about the room, wowed at the space they were given to train me.
Whoa! This room is so huge! How the heck did we get this room? When did the castle even have this room? Holy crap!
Does no one tell you anything? Or are you like just out of the loop on like the majority of war things? I giggled and stepped in, watching as the fairy flew to and fro from one side of the room to the other in excitement. Hopefully, they wouldn't be too distracted by the size of the room. Just fly. Could you imagine we just had to pop a squat in the corner and watch this damn thing fly around all day? Hey, Faye. Faye at last turned to me with a large grin and flew close to me, placing their hands behind their back.
Hiya! You ready to learn some cool tricks from a cool demon like me?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's more than tricks, because I need to live. I smiled. I had picked a good trainer, nodding. I pressed my hands on my hips. Absolutely, I'm ready. Teach me some shit. Faye grinned before floating over to the far end of the room, cupping their hands together and calling out to me.
Over here!
Alright, I tilted my head, confused a bit, but shrugged and ran forward, eventually stopping at Faye's side. They clapped in applause. The fuck? Which made me a bit more confused, but I bowed to them amused.
Alrighty. Now, race it to the other side!
Oh my god. Are we learning how to walk here? What's going on? What? Before I could question Faye, they reeled back and zipped across the room towards the far wall. I rushed behind, trying to catch up, but didn't make it in time to beat Faye from touching the wall.
I win!
Oh my god. Because you didn't warn me this was going to be a race. Faye looked at me confused before rubbing her dome piece.
This is training. Aren't I supposed to teach you how to be fast and dodgy and stuff?
I mean, yeah, sure. I suddenly realized that what I had gotten myself into. Faye had no idea what they were doing. Great. Who are you? A figure, this random dude I've never seen before. I mean, where did he even come from? He just pop out of her butt? A figure who was standing in the corner watching the whole event stepped out of the shadow, slightly surprising me as he walked up to Faye.
Boss, I think you should be teaching the human how to defend herself. Just saying.
Oh, hold on, dude. Why are you talking like that, man? Faye turned around and flailed their arms at the figure.
Terminus, don't tell me what to do. I can do this.
Terminal anus? What eternity anus? Let out a snort with a amused smirk, crossing his arms at his apparent boss and shrugged.
Alright, whatever you say. I was just making a suggestion.
Faye puffed out their cheeks at eternal anus before turning back to me. I became concerned. Would I be able to learn anything from Faye other than racing? No. Why would we leave that quick? I mean, we just, was just now introduced to a new character, Eternal Anus, and I'm gonna stay and figure what's going on. I took a moment to take a deep breath and let it out. Who knew what Faye had in store? Maybe they'd teach me how to grow wings or become small. Why the hell would I want to do that? Their abilities could be pretty useful, especially the wings. Faye pressed a finger to their chin before suddenly getting an idea.
I know! I can teach you a really cool attack!
What is that gonna be? I suddenly became excited. An attack? I knew the training was meant for my self-defense, but having an offensive attack would prove to be very useful in the war I was essentially about to jump into. Faye grinned at me before turning to the open space and holding their hands out, closing their eyes and focusing their energy. I watched as a green orb slowly appeared before their palms, growing in size until it became the size of a baseball. Faye opened their eyes and gripped it with both hands, looking at me with a grin.
This is called the thorn bush.
We need to come up with a better name for that. Thorn bush? Faye nodded ecstatically before arching their hands behind their head and chucking the orb forward into at me? As it impacted the ground, the orb popped like a bubble and released a cloud of green gas that covered a large portion of the floor. The gas quickly began to materialize into a web of thorny branches. Okay, that's pretty cool. Stretching out over the floor and stopping just before Faye and I stood. Where Faye and I stood. The branches continued to sway in the air as if they were alive. Whoa! I was absolutely astonished. This seemed like a really cool trap, but was it effective? I turned my gaze to Faye to see them look at Eternal Anus with a smug expression.
Eternimus! Try and walk through it.
Oh damn, you're just gonna... Is that why he has cuts on his face? With an amused grin and a roll of his eyes, Eternal Anus summoned his spear and walked forward into the area where the bush had made claim. I watched in curiosity, wondering what the thorn bush would do. I gasped as the branches closest to Eternal Anus began to lash out and strike at him, only to be blocked and cut down by his spear. Okay, so at least he's not getting scrubbed on. With a concentrated expression, Eternal Anus began to cut through the bush, driving it back slowly, but the bush is moving? While I understood what he knew about how to deflect Faye's trap, it was an interesting spell nonetheless. If anything, it was able to slow down enemies and attack them as I went on. A good distraction. That's actually pretty cool. Alright, as Eternal Anus reached the center, he rammed his spear into the spot where the bush sprouted from, causing the branches around him to wither and die, fading into the air like they were never there. Wow, that was pretty cool. I gotta admit, that's pretty cool. It looked really cool even to the end. It was very effective and I was going to learn it. Go me. I'm just... no one else is going to motivate my ass. I got to fucking self-motivate. Faye turned and smiled at me, bobbing a bit in the air in excitement.
Isn't it? It's one of my favorite trap spells. What's even cooler is that if you throw it at a person, they'll be covered in thorns and won't be able to fight back.
Sounds painful as well. That was a game changer. Really, that actually is pretty cool, man. That's like that's actually quite useful, to be honest. We should be using that in the fight with the Demon Lord. Like, just have him stand still. The fight would be over in 2 seconds. Like, let's be honest. It could really do stuff like that. And then again, there wasn't really a good way to test it because none of us wanted to be on the receiving end of that spell, and there were no training dummies in the room. I had to take their word for it. I mean, you saw it kind of happen, you know? I mean, if he wasn't blocking, he'd be, like, ensnared. Faye grinned before crossing their legs and sitting on the air. What? Pondering.
What else to show you?
Everything, I hope. Shit, and you're just gonna show me how to freaking toss a thorn boy? I mean, it's useful, but I mean, damn. Eternal Anus looked over and shook his head, walking back to his corner.
Make the human try what you just did first before showing us something new.
Eternal Anus, I'm sorry, man. You had to word things differently, my dude.
All right.
Faye looked over at me and waved their hands out into the room, gesturing me to do what they did. It was mildly adorable to see them do that, but I shook my thoughts out and focused on trying to replicate what Faye did. So I looked to my hands, trying to focus on forming the green orb in my hands. I began to imagine it, hoping it would spark my energy to perform the spell, but I found that imagination wouldn't work, or at least wasn't enough. You've been watching too much SpongeBob, okay? It doesn't work like that, girl. I glared at the back of my hands, trying to figure it out. Faye floated beside me and looked at my hands as well, tapping their chin.
Maybe if you squint really hard or something.
You don't know how to perform the own spell? What the? Faye, come on now. I turned my head to Faye, not wanting to be a bad student, but needing the teacher to actually teach me. Faye floated back a bit. What the fuck? Placing their hands in front of them by their chest.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's like,
This is cringe. Like what?
I mean, you're a human, and I don't exactly know if you have magic and stuff. Like,
What do you mean? I do have magic. Haven't you seen? I mean, oh wait, you haven't seen. I've seen it. It's pretty badass. Faye wiggled their arms beside them, flailing a bit, before flying around me and scratching their head.
Brute demons have, like, rage energy to battle, and then Diana has her ooh-la-la kind of sexual energy or whatever to power
That's not what
her powers.
That's not what I've seen.
For me, it just comes naturally, you know? I just think about it, and poof, it happens. But I'm a demon, so it's supposed to happen.
Could you imagine if your teachers in school were like this? I nodded, understanding what they meant, but I pressed forward, knowing humans could perform magic if they wanted to. We have energy too, after all. Well, can you show it to me again, or maybe do it with me or something? What? Faye tapped their chin, listening to me, before nodding and turning to the side. They pointed their hands out and focused on their fingers, which caused me to turn and do the same. I stared as Faye took a breath and mimicked them perfectly. I was going to do this one way or the other. I looked at my hands and tried to focus one more time. I tried to imagine my energy flowing into my hands and forming the green orb, hoping it would spur the action to happen. Come on! We're like trying to take a severe dump. Finally, something in my mind clicked. I closed my eyes and focused on my breathing, feeling the air flow through my body. Air's flowing through your body? You have way too many holes then, just gonna say that. You might need a doctor. I began to mentally scour my body, taking note of the inhales and exhales I released before figuring it out. I concentrated on the air in my body, imagining it to be like the energy I imagined myself to have. You just said you had it, now you're imagining it? Shit, you are watching too much SpongeBob. Like that, I felt very faint waves pulse through my body, confirming that I indeed had energy to use, and a lot of it. I smiled and looked to my hands again, knowing and feeling the energy within me, before committing to call it forward into a green orb. Obediently, my energy began to flow into my hands, making them blow lightly before forming an orb just in front of my palms. It began to pulse and grow in size, making Faye look over and gasp.
Holy crap, you're doing it! You're doing it!
You're distracting me! I grinned from ear to ear as I continued to focus on the orb. Once it became the size of both my hands. What? Is it bigger than hers? I grasped onto it and pulled it over my head before chucking it into the empty room. Damn, we just spirit bombed. Just like Faye's orb, mine popped once it crashed into the floor and formed large strings and lines of thorny branches, waving creepily in the air and releasing a threatening appearance. I couldn't have been prouder of myself. Faye zipped through the air happily, punching their fist into the air. You're gonna punch freaking Eternal Anus.
You did it!
Oh, well, at least I know I don't have to self-motivate. She's actually quite motivational. It's great. I couldn't help but jump a bit as well. It was tough, but I had managed to pull it off. I felt a slight tingle in my hands and arms from using energy, but I didn't mind. Her arms are like going black. Oh, I don't mind. This is fine. A Faye finally floated over to me and grabbed my hands, shaking them in joy.
You're gonna have so much fun training!
Oh my goodness.
I guess I don't have to ask if everything is okay in here.
Well, Faye and I turned our heads to see Diana leaning against the doorway with a small smirk. I smiled a bit and nodded, looking to the magic I had performed that was still wriggling in the center of the room. Faye released my hands and flew over to Diana, grabbing the succubus's hand and pulling her into the room. Oh, she's gonna trip into the thorns! Good job, Faye!
Is it so impressive? It's the second best spell I know and she mastered it!
Really? You didn't tell me that. I'm freaking boss. Wait, what? I stared at Faye in shock. This was their second best spell? They really trusted me to learn it and it was the second best? What was the first? What was the last? Yeah, right? It was little fucking ants or some shit. Dinah observed. Actually, that can be pretty freaking mean, depending on the kind of ant. Dinah observed the branch monster I had essentially summoned and nodded with a chuckle.
I told you, she's a powerhouse of energy. I'm not surprised that she could pull this off.
Great! Thanks for believing in me, Dinah. I felt a bit flattered that Dinah believed in me, but Faye flew around Dinah and flicked the succubus's hair. What the fuck? Making Dinah jump a bit and glare at the flying demon.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me that she was awesome!
Well, you know, the flattery's nice. I appreciate it. But I'm not forgetting about what you were saying about all those people. You talk mad shit, Faye. Dinah chuckled a bit before letting out a sigh with a shake of her
I'll
head.
leave you be then. Have fun, dears.
Awesome. All right, Faye was grinning from ear to ear as Dinah turned on her heel and walked away. As soon as she left the room, Faye spun around me and lifted themselves higher into the air.
Alrighty, let's make you the master of the thorn bush.
All right. I laughed and felt excitement rush through my veins. Again, not healthy. This was going to be fun. Damn, that quick. All right, we spent the entire day focusing on how to make the spell happen quicker, faster, and come more naturally to me. I left exhausted but thrilled, and what I was now able to do. Sweet! All right, exhausted and tired, I marched to my room and opened the door, surprised to see Matthew already there. No shirt? Matthew? What the fuck, dude? You good? Someone dose you or something? Some freaking whatever the heck? However, what was odd about him being in the room was not that he was there before me, but that he was staring at the fire, eyes glazed over in almost a pale blue tint. Something was going on. He's probably tired as shit, man. I walked over and placed my hand on Matthew's shoulder, slowly walking around him to look directly into his eyes. It was almost creepy to see, but he seemed almost dead. Oh shit. Matthew, bro, you good? I'll read your line for you, bro. You seem a bit preoccupied. I gently shook his body, trying to snap him out of whatever trance he was under, but gasped as I spotted a blue ring around his neck. As I did, the air around me became colder and a little darker. What was going on? Panicked, I looked around, trying to pin down what was causing this. You have a boner? Okay, well, we can take care of that. Matthew's voice brought me back to him, hearing his voice drawl out of his mouth like an emotionless doll. I gripped Matthew's shoulders tightly and shook him again. Matthew, bitch, get up. Still nothing. Let's not be aggressive. Let's kiss him. I mean, I'm sure that would bring him out of a trance in a smack. I had to break him out of the whatever spell was consuming his mind, and there was no way in hell I was going to smack him. Even though that was a 50-50 shot of me doing that. Instead, took his head into my hands and pulled him into a kiss, locking lips with him and shutting my eyes. I didn't understand what made me do this, but I was determined to make it work. I waited and waited until finally Matthew wrapped his arms around me and leaned into the kiss, letting me know he possibly broke through. Are you good? You don't look good. I opened my eyes slightly to see his eyes closed, but his arms around my waist were secure and loving, just like how I remembered. As I slowly pulled away, Matthew opened his eyes and revealed their lovely ocean blue color. Perfect. However, his cheeks were a lovely contrast of red.
Hi.
You getting turned on by the fire or something? I mean, what's going on? I smiled a bit, giggling. Hey, what happened? You good, bro?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was just looking at the fire. It's pretty warm.
just looking at the fire, right? I mean, no bulge? Okay, I'm just making sure. Because that was pretty weird, my dude. Every part of me didn't believe him. Then again, something was wrong, and maybe Matthew was becoming a victim of it. I frowned and cupped his cheek, making him lean into it slightly. Are you sure? I mean, you look like you were possessed, my dude. Matthew furrowed his eyebrows, unsure of what I meant. Did he really not remember? I now became concerned, desperate to know answers. Why was he acting so strangely? Matthew took my hands in his and held them gently, rubbing his thumbs over the tops of my hands.
Hey, is everything all right?
I should be asking you that, man. You were the one that looked like you were freaking passing out or something. I almost glared. That was what I had asked him. I wasn't crazy. I knew that something was off, and I had to try to figure it out. I squeezed Matthew's hands instead. Matthew, I'm serious. You were staring at the fire, and your eyes just looked glazed and stuff, like a donut. Pressing his lips together, he looked down, trying to discern what I meant, as if he didn't do what I had suggested he did. I pulled his hands, now worried. I didn't want him to assume I was making things up. You believe me, right? Matthew stared into my eyes, reading them as he nodded.
I do. I do. I don't know how to respond. I mean, I don't remember being in a trance.
Listen to me! Freaking, as he said that, however, he suddenly curled over and held his head, hissing in pain. What? You got a snake in there? Matthew! Quickly, Matthew collapsed onto his knees and gripped his head, digging his fingers into his hair as I followed him down. Now, I knew for sure something was definitely wrong. I cupped Matthew's face, trying to read his expression and trying to figure out what was wrong just from sight. A moment passed before Matthew let out a gasp of a breath, opening his eyes wide and panting for some fresh air to enter his lungs. His eyes painted his fear, as if he had just encountered a nightmare within the moment that passed. Matthew, what happened? Matthew wouldn't speak, furrowing his eyebrows and shaking his head.
I heard someone calling to me.
Who is it? Calling you? For a moment, I believed it to be his mother. Maybe he was hearing what I heard in the human world. But why didn't I hear it anymore? It made no sense. Matthew shook his head and gritted his
It
teeth.
sounded like my mother. But how could she?
Is she a lot? What are you doing? You look like you're really enjoying a dump or something. What's going on? I took Matthew's hands and held them to my chest, catching his attention. Hey, let's go ask the others about this. The fuck? It's not too late to go talk to them. Matthew suddenly shook his head and took his hands from mine, grasping my shoulders.
It's all right, really. I don't need
What?
their help. We can figure this out on our own.
Oh, come on, stop being a bitch. Look, what are you doing, man? Matthew. I had a really bad feeling about the situation. Matthew was getting put in trances, then getting headaches and hearing his mother's voice. Why was he so reluctant to get help from his brothers? No, insist. This is bull, man. What the frick? You're brothers for a reason. This was too mysterious and dangerous. We needed the help. Matthew, we need
Please, just trust me.
to.
Okay?
You didn't trust me? Until just now where you had a snake in the dome. Matthew stared deep into my eyes, pleading silently for me to trust him. I bit my lip, still not completely sure that this was the right choice. As I slowly let out a whine of complaint, Matthew gripped harder on my shoulders. Not enough to hurt me, but enough to emphasize his point.
Please.
Damn it, Matthew. He seemed adamant. I swallowed my nerves and nodded slowly, taking in a breath and letting out a sigh. Matthew leaned forward and kissed my forehead, thankful that I was willing to trust him. However, trust wasn't the issue. I trusted Matthew very much. What I didn't trust was whatever was trying to influence him and hurt him. I didn't just want to leave this in the dark, and I didn't want us to hit a wall with this that could potentially hurt Matthew more or make him do something even more odd. I grimaced before standing up, helping Matthew up. Come on, let's head to bed then. Matthew nodded, agreeing that right now sleep was something we probably needed. I led Matthew to bed and helped him in, cuddling up to him and laying my head on his shoulder. Matthew?
Yeah?
Are you sure you'll be alright, dude?
I'm sure. I promise. I'll figure this out in no time.
Okay, my dude. I nodded once more before closing my eyes. I had to let him try. If all else failed, I could go to the others for help, but not unless it became dangerous. But what if it's too late? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if you wait too long and then there's no coming back from the scrub? You know what I'm saying? Still, something felt wrong about this entire situation. First, there was something wrong with me. Now there was something wrong with Matthew. We had the worst luck. I expected the night to take me away into a world of slumber, but was quietly awoken by Simon poking my side with his knife. Fucking Simon, man, what are you doing? What? I looked down at my side to see Simon waving his arms and pointing at the door, revealing it to be partially open. He's helping us! Simon, you're not actually a dick! With a familiar red eye peeking through it. What? Wait, revealing it to be partially open with a familiar red eye peeking through it? I stared, suddenly wide-eyed, but Diana didn't move from her spot, knowing I spotted her. Did she want me to go over there? Simon pulled at my hand, wanting me to go. So, do you know how fast I'd shit the bed? Seriously, like in a literal sense, like I would shit the bed if I saw that. Just I open my eyes like, and then I looked over at my door and I saw red eyes. I'd be like, so I snuck out of Matthew's arms and crept to the door, causing Diana to back away from it and give me the space needed to leave the room. Diana?
Is everything all right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, what were you hoping to find? I mean, shit. Huh? Where was this coming from? I furrowed my eyebrows. What do you mean? Diana pressed her lips together and looked into the room for a moment before looking back to me with a serious
I
expression.
was doing my usual routine around the castle and felt somewhat of a disturbance in the air.
The
Like
fuck?
something
You
was
Jedi?
trying to make contact with someone here. It was a weak wave, but...
Okay. Well, I mean, let me just go back for a second and analyze. You were doing your usual routine around the castle. Your usual routine is while people are sleeping, you peek into the doorways. That's not weird at all. I stared surprised. Someone was really trying to contact Matthew. I became overjoyed to know that it was simple enough. Diana tilted her head at me, seeing my expression.
Did something happen?
Before I opened my mouth to speak, however, Matthew's plea echoed in my head. He wanted me to trust him. If I told Diana, I'd ruin his trust for me. What the? I mean, not really, right? I mean, he said don't go to the brothers. Technically, Diana's not a brother. She's assistant. I'm just kidding. I merely bit my lip, shaking my head. No, I'm just surprised is all. Diana raised an eyebrow at me, but I didn't budge. I didn't want to be the one to say anything until Matthew needed me to, despite it fighting against every moral code in my body. I had to put some trust in Matthew. Eventually, Diana nodded before turning to leave. Damn, just like that? You're not even gonna, offer me a cup of tea or, talk about girl
I
shit?
apologize for disturbing your sleep. Please, have a good night.
You didn't do anything. Simon was the one stabbing me in the ribs. With that, Diana left me alone in the hall. I stared, mildly flabbergasted, at the fact that she simply let it go. However, would she look into it more? I had to admit, I hoped so. I returned to Matthew's arms that night, hoping that everything would be okay. The morning was unkind as I woke and yawned, feeling drowsiness still try to consume my mind and force it back to sleep. Damn, you're making drowsiness sound fucking evil as shit. However, I had to train today, and so did Matthew. Speaking of Matthew, I turned my head to see Matthew rubbing his eyes, waking up alongside me. However, his grumble let me know, that the night was not kind to him.
Is it morning already?
My hard nipples say yes. I nodded and gently leaned down, kissing Matthew's forehead. That seemed to lighten his mood as a happy smile danced across his lips, and he let out a happy sigh.
Good morning.
Ew, morning? Ew, what is this morning thing? This is gross, man.
Good morning.
I smiled as I hovered over Matthew's face, seeing his beautiful blue eyes gaze into my eyes through the blur of sleep. With a sweet, infectious smile, Matthew reached a hand up and cupped my cheek.
You are so pretty. You know that?
Are you drunk? What the fuck is this? I fought a blush creeping up on my face. The way he said it so casually made my heart flutter and had me forgetting about the world around us. It was like we were in our own little universe for a short moment of time. I nuzzled his hand and giggled. I didn't want the day to roll onto us getting ready to separate and train just yet. I wanted to sit back with Matthew and enjoy our time alone. No problems, no danger, just us. Matthew grew a small smirk before shaking his arms around me and pulling me against his chest, making me gasp and grab onto his shoulders, not wanting to crush him with my weight. However, Matthew smiled and squeezed me close.
No nightmare last night, huh?
Nope. Oh, wait. Yeah, nope. As he said it, I realized it. There was indeed no nightmare for me last night. I had a peaceful, dreamless night. I suddenly smiled and looked down at Matthew with a happy nod. Yeah, no nightmare. I had a good sleep. Matthew chuckled before leaning up and kissing me softly, just enough for me to feel it. What the fuck? As he pulled away, I became curious about his own night. What about you? Matthew's smile faltered a bit as I asked, but shook his head slightly and gained his smile back.
It was rough. I woke up a couple of times, but that was pretty much it.
You best not be lying to me. We said we trust each other. You got something behind your back? What do you got behind your back? I just noticed that. Do you just stand like that on the regular? Or are you scratching your ass? What's going on? There was more to the story, but I had to let it go. If you wanted me to trust him, then I had to do it. I had to with the full extent of my heart. I nodded and planted a light feather-like kiss on his nose, making him chuckle beneath his breath. So what's the plan for you?
I figured I could skip some training and just spend some time with you.
The way you say that piques my interest. With a playful smirk, I grabbed the nearby pillow and gently bounced it on him. Our pillows bounce? What the fuck? Making him flail a bit.
Hey!
You know training is important, Matthew. Matthew smirked and rolled us both over to have him on top of me, bouncing his own pillow on me.
I can totally train with you in a never-ending pillow fight!
Dude, what the fuck? That just reminded me like a Sock and Boppers commercial or some shit. Comment down below if you know what Sock and Boppers are. I want to see how many of you actually know. I don't even think they're still around, so. Oh, it was on. And don't Google it, alright? Don't Google it. I quickly grabbed my pillow and swung it at Matthew, landing on target and causing him to roll off of me. With a grin, I arched my body in the opposite direction, hoping to land another hit to him, but Matthew quickly ducked and swung his pillow at me, hitting me with a soft, fluffy impact. This is cool. I like this morning a lot better than the other ones, you know what I'm saying? The other ones we were just laying there trying to chill. This one we're kind of like having fun, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure we're going to get interrupted with breakfast again, but I like this one much better.
Gotcha!
Damn it! Or whatever the fuck. The battle became intense as soon as we were double fisting pillows, trying to whack each other with our chosen weapons while also avoiding the fireplace. I hope so. Someone just trips into the fire, starts getting crispy. The bench, and truly anything that looked expensive around the room. That's all we're concerned about, not safety, just freaking expenses. Regardless, we were immersed in our own world, ducking it out with feathers and cloth as we lost track of time. We barely even noticed the door
What's
open.
going on in...
We're just fucking around. As Diana's voice rang through the air, I gasped in surprise and looked over to see the succubus holding 2 plates with stacks of pancakes on them. What happened? What frightened me and Diana was a sudden knife chucking itself in Diana's direction, causing her to sidestep and letting the knife rake through a stack, effectively nailing the pancakes to the wall. But you just ruined some damn good I mean, seriously, that's what we get in this world. We get cheese, beef jerky, and like water. we get some pancakes finally, and he ruins them. All right, pancakes aren't that nice, so they're probably gonna slide right off the knife. They're not like firm unless you have like rock hard pancakes, but those aren't good. Whoa!
Hey!
Sorry. Dinah and I looked to Matthew, seeing him panting and posed in mid-throw. His eyes flashed back and forth between gold and blue. What the hell? Glaring hard at Diana, most likely in surprise from her sudden entrance. And once again, I was taken away from my fantasy and brought back to reality. Diana snarled and practically slammed the 2 plates she was holding on the table, glaring daggers at Matthew.
What in the 7 hells was that about?
Diana! As Diana took a step forward, Matthew suddenly shook his head and realized who was approaching him and who he essentially attacked, causing him to step back and place his hands in front of him.
Whoa, hold on!
Whoa, wait, we gotta defend him, right? Yeah, defend him. I quickly reacted, not wanting Diana and Matthew to start fighting. Besides, Diana took us by surprise. Matthew couldn't have known. I rushed over and placed myself between Matthew and Diana, holding my arms out to stop her. Diana, hold on! Diana stopped and glared down at me, now turning her frustration towards me. Oh, shit!
What?
I opened my mouth to speak before Matthew rushed around me and pressed his hands together, bowing his head.
I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you. I thought it was an attacker and...
An attacker in my home? They would be dead before they even set foot through the gates!
What do you mean? There was like an imp in the castle just like in the beginning, right? They stopped the spell from working that one time or something. Or something like that. Oh, no, I'm stupid. Never mind. That was what they thought. I looked to Matthew, seeing him grit his teeth and press his hands together hard, trying to gain some form of forgiveness from the succubus who seemed to want his throat cut open. Damn. Is that a good breakfast to you? You know, like pancakes and cut throats? Dinah snarled quietly before slapping his hands away and gripping his chin, making him stare up at her. Oh, shit.
Next time you dare to attack me will be the last time you feel your heart beating in your chest.
What? I mean, will it be beating outside his chest? Because, I mean, that's not that bad if he's a demon. He says, can you do that thing? Is that okay? With a threatening scowl, Dinah pushed Matthew back and away from her, causing her to turn away and walked towards the exit of the room. I, however, rushed to Matthew, catching him before he tripped on his own feet.
Then get to training. Don't waste time.
Damn. Say ya. She's pissed. Diana finally left, leaving me and Matthew lost in our own space once again. This time, we were awake and aware of what was going on, mildly ashamed of the delusion we placed ourselves in before the sudden surprise from Diana. Matthew rubbed his head, looking to the floor.
Man, I really screwed up.
Yeah, you scrubbed it, bro. Let's just comfort him. You're okay, you know. Keep on scratching your ass. Everything's going to be all right. I knew that he messed up, but he needed to get himself together and fix his mistakes so he can move on and figure out the problems he really had, or he already had. I wrapped my arms around him, nuzzling his shoulder. It's all right, bro. I rubbed his shoulders as he rested his forehead against mine.
How the heck do I deserve you?
I don't know. I merely smiled and kissed his cheek. Because you love me, and I love you, and there's pancakes going to waste, so let's go eat them. With a chuckle, Matthew kissed my cheek in kind and nodded. Matthew and I turned to our breakfast and ate what we could, with Matthew taking the plate he managed to attack. The pancakes almost they almost slipped off the knife that was still embedded in the wall, causing Matthew to run and catch it in his empty plate. He didn't eat it and merely left it there, avoiding it like it had some sort of poison in it. We eventually separated to train, letting the day roll. Alright, I began to feel a bit elated at the idea of walking to train with Faye. The stress of the morning needed to be burnt away with a workout, and I knew that Faye would teach me something to take my mind off of it. It became like a game, a relief away from the reality of the world. Alright, there she is, smiling. I made my way to the grand hall and stopped at the doorway, looking and taking in the sight of Faye sleeping on the ground, spread eagle style. What the spread eagle style? What the fuck's that? You dreaming of getting some or something? She's definitely having one of those dreams, because that was... Alright, what was that? Alright, and second of all, not even a sleeping bag, Faye? I mean, no one gave you your own fucking room? I took every ounce of control I had to not laugh hysterically at the sounds Faye was releasing as they slept. To think such sounds came out of a cute-looking demon like Faye seemed rather bizarre and cartoon-like. Nevertheless, I knew I had to get started on training. The boys were almost likely in the midst of their own trainings as I stood there, so I couldn't exactly spend time watching Faye snore. I stepped quietly into the room, drawing closer to Faye's body, as I tried to think of how to wake them up. Oh, we're scaring them. Oh, we're definitely doing that, dude. You know it. It was only going to be a little scare. A little fun never hurt anyone, right? I tiptoed further into the room, making sure not to wake up Faye as I approached them and circled around them. As I finally stood behind her head, I crouched down and cupped my hands together. We're not going to use the bush thing on her, are we? Oh my god. Oh shit, you good, girl? Damn. Faye jolted up like they had been zapped by a bolt of lightning and shot themselves into the air like a rocket before slamming their head into the ceiling. Oh shit, I'm sorry, dude. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, Faye! The temporary hilarity I felt as I scared Faye quickly vanished as the sound of her head colliding with the ceiling echoed through the room. Oh, and the fairy in question quickly descended, holding their head. Faye, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I needed to wake up anyways.
Damn, dude. I would go back, but I'm not. Like that, I'm just gonna leave it at that because that's kind of, it's funny, and at the same time, it's like that's what you get for talking shit about everybody. The fuck. Faye finally floated to be level with my height, shaking their head and rubbing over where their head collided with the ceiling. I bit my lip and rubbed the back of my neck, feeling now very embarrassed and ashamed of what I chose to do. Faye wiggled her arms and let out a tired sigh before blowing raspberries with their mouth and slamming their hands against their cheeks. Okay. I had to cover my mouth to stop the burst of laughter that wanted to erupt from my gut at the exclamation. Faye became full of energy like it was the flip of a switch. I became mildly jealous of such a feat. Nevertheless, I was eager and ready for my next training session. I placed my arms at my sides and straightened my back, showing the posture of determination and attention. Well, you know what? I'm thinking back to what I think it was either Matthew or Eric that said that they don't need sleep and that, you know, the way that they get by is like energy and food and stuff like that. And obviously we know how these guys get energy, right? Like it's no surprise. So I'm questioning now when I see like someone like this just sleeping, it's like, I guess they're not getting any because you're freaking sleeping. You need to sleep. What will we be doing today? Faye looked over at me, looking for some sort of answer in my eyes. Despite showing, so I guess freaking Eternal Anus ain't doing nothing. Despite showing the sudden energy spark like a light bulb earlier, they remained silent for a moment. Were they not sure? I hoped that today wouldn't be going over the thorn bush again. As much as it was a cool trick, casting a thorn bush into existence from dawn to dusk was not as fun as many would imagine it to be, even with hilarious breaks in between. Finally, a glimmer twinkled in Faye's eyes, making them grin from ear to ear.
I know what we're gonna do!
Okay, tell me. What? With a burst of energy, Faye shot themselves into the air and spun around before flipping upside down into the air towards me.
I'm gonna teach you how to fly!
Dude. What? Fly? Freaking my mind completely blanked on itself. Fly? I was really gonna be taught how to fly? I didn't have wings. How the heck was I gonna do that? Faye nodded ecstatically before swooping down and flying around me.
So easy! You just need to imagine yourself floating in the air and boom! You'll be flying in no time!
What the heck? What, a Sword Art Online or some shit? I grimaced, watching Faye fly around me. I suddenly felt like I was in Peter Pan and had to think happy thoughts and go to the second star to the right to Neverland. Well, Faye was a fairy, so I'm suddenly imagining you as Tinkerbell Faye. She'd be like, who the fuck's that?
Who?
Yes. Right, Demon World, not Human World. Never mind. Faye stopped circling me and stared for a moment before shrugging and floating away from me, crossing their arms proudly and physically imitating Sergeant.
Now get those feet off the ground!
Okay. I looked down at the ground at my boot-covered feet. Making a thorn bush was one thing. Making myself fly was another. I tried to imagine it, but there was no energy in my body that would respond to such a request. How the heck was I gonna fly? Shit, let's try and sprout some damn wings. I mean, this is probably the right answer, but I want to try to sprout wings. I want to see if I can do it. Well, I wasn't in a children's book. I was certain that logic would help me out. I had formed an orb and the thorn bush out of thin air. Wings should have been the same deal, right? I closed my eyes and relaxed my body, trying to focus on the sides of my spine. Ew. I had to think of anatomy. Where would my wings go? I concentrated on 2 points on my upper back, guiding my energy to those spots. I began to imagine what kind of wings I would spawn. Angelic, hopefully not bat-like shit. The possibilities seemed endless. A wave of excitement ran through me. This was going to be so cool. However, after almost a full minute of concentration, nothing seemed to occur. I'm trying, okay? It's been a minute, shit. I opened my eyes and looked down at myself. My feet were still on the ground, and nothing. Oh, you would feel that. Damn, you have to look to. You have like no feeling in your legs. My feet were still on the ground, and nothing changed with me. A flash of anger sparked within me. It's been a minute! How difficult was it to lift off of the ground? I'll stress it again. You've never flown in your life. You try for a minute and get pissed. You need to calm down. How the heck can I fly? As soon as the word burst from my mouth, I shot my hands down in anger, only to be vaulted into the air by some sort of energy force beneath my feet. My body quickly shot up, defying gravity and sending me towards the ceiling. Oh, we're gonna get some frickin' karma. Goo! Oh shit. Faye quickly zipped over towards me and grabbed me, intercepting my quick ascent to the ceiling while holding me closer to them. It was like being held by a very strong child, as their small frame barely lined up with my shoulder to my knee. What? She's that tiny? It hit me for a split moment. Faye was ridiculously small. Nevertheless, I gripped onto Faye, thankful that I wasn't going to crash into the wood above, and looked around in awe. I was really in the air, flying, or at least being held up by some force. I could feel energy cycle around and through my body, almost likely keeping me afloat. I could fly. I looked at Faye with growing excitement of the situation. This was the best feeling ever. Faye grinned before slowly letting me go, proving that they weren't holding me up and that I was imagining. Oh, I wasn't imagining anything. I was like, what the fuck? Holy crap. Pure elation rushed through me as I merely measured the distance between my feet and the floor. I was in the air and slowly bobbing up and down like Faye, floating freely against gravity. I did it!
You did it! You're flying!
Dude, we're awesome. I willed my body forward, feeling the air around me slowly guide me. In obedience, the energy in my body moved me through the space. It was incredibly odd, feeling the air slightly brush against my entire body, but I was indeed moving forward. A large grin graced my face as I became more determined with my mental commands. I flew towards Faye and circled them before suddenly flying around the space. I felt as free as a bird, letting my mind naturally drive me in each direction I wanted to go in.
There we go! You're getting it!
This is sick. This is honestly sick. I'm glad we ended up choosing her eventually. I mean, we were gonna one way or the other, but seriously, it's cool. Wahoo! Out of pure adrenaline, I arched back and did a flip in the air before rocketing back. Oh, we need to calm down. We're gonna fly right out the damn window. Rocketing back forward and gliding over to turn away from the wall I was quickly approaching. The rush of this new power became addicting, and I wanted to do more with it. Still, I couldn't deny the effects using this power was putting me in. I could feel my energy quickly drain away the longer I remained in the air. A slight tingling sensation ran over my legs and hands, reminding me that I had a limited amount of energy. I mentally took note of it and floated over to Faye, putting a lid on my over-enthusiastic glee from the new power and preparing myself for further instruction. Alright, I can fly now. What's next? Faye laughed before planting their hands on their hips.
You really like flying, huh?
Who the fuck wouldn't? I mean, like, could you imagine? Every single human cannot fly. We're probably like the first one that can do so without a plane. I couldn't help but nod. This was the most exciting thing I had done in the demon world thus far. It was like I was a superhero or something. I barely had to think about staying up to remain in the air, and it was increasingly making me giddy. Faye grinned before circling around me and gesturing to me to follow them.
Then let's have a little fun. Come on!
Okay, I'm already running low. Let's not fly over like a freaking bottomless pit or something. With the blink of an eye, Faye zipped out of the room and into the hall. Hey! Not wanting to lose them, I willed myself forward, starting the chase. I quickly arched around the corner, locking Faye into my sights before building up speed to cut it my increasing distance. Faye was ridiculously fast, and I barely managed to dodge the obstacles in our way, which included other demons. Oh my god, they're about to get knocked out. Oh, servant. I was like, Sergeant, what the fuck? What business do you have screaming like that?
Sorry, not sorry!
Oh shit, damn, Faye. See, she is a dick, I'm telling you. Despite ducking and dodging each speed bump in the halls, I couldn't help, damn, that's all we consider these people are, speed bumps? I couldn't help but laugh at the thrill of the experience. Faye looked back at me and laughed, as well as but suddenly dropped their expression. With almost a screeching halt, Faye turned their body back upright and stopped going forward, holding out their hands and stopping me as well. To my surprise, Faye managed to stop me without budging from their place, like they were a perfect brick wall. Why did Faye stop? I turned upright as well, suddenly confused. Faye, however, floated forward ever so slightly and looked into a nearby room, peeking over the corner of the barely open doorway. Out of my own curiosity, I did as well, feeling my energy die out and lower me to stand on the floor at last. Oh shit. The room we were peeking into happened to be the war room, and we stared at the back of Dinah's head as it looked down at the table in front of her. Her hands gripped the edges like angry vices ready to break it. How did Faye know Dinah was in there? And what the heck was Dinah upset about?
How could a squad of scouts be found and slaughtered by a band of wild harpies?
What? Dinah seemed to answer the question, but my mind began to try and imagine what she had said. Harpies existed? A squad of scouts were out and were killed? Obviously they're out. Like, this is just all of us all a big-ass surprise. I looked up at Faye, seeing them press their lips together in worry as they stared at the succubus. As I turned to look back at Diana, however, I silently gasped and covered my mouth at what I had laid my eyes upon. Oh shit! Around Diana's body was a black and purple fiery aura, flickering frighteningly in the air around her as she dug her nails into the wood of the table.
I'll have to search for it myself. But where to start?
Oh my god. But what? Before I could watch further, suddenly afraid of Diana, Far grabbed my shirt and quickly pulled me away from the door, making sure to cover the hand I had placed over my mouth with their own safety. For safety.
Let's go. We should get back to training.
Great. Without even giving me an explanation or chance to break free, Faye guided me back to the training hall. My mind became full of questions, but as we returned to the training hall, Faye became almost like a military sergeant. I had to practice flying and forming my thorn bush to build my stamina until the end of the day. By then, I was too exhausted to ask questions and just returned to my room. I would ask tomorrow. I slowly padded back to my room, tired from the day. I needed rest, and I needed the comfort of my bed and Matthew's arms around me. As I walked in, however, I took in a sight I did not expect to see. What, a shirtless him? Matthew held Simon in a full-body chokehold, crushing his body like a stress ball and glaring hard into his beady red eyes.
I'm gonna rip you apart!
Oh, ew. You say it like that, dude. Matthew! I rushed in and grabbed Matthew's hands, prying them apart and letting Simon slip from between them onto the ground. Simon let out a squeak before running out of the room. Matthew, still for some reason enraged, took a step to follow him before I slammed my hand into his shoulder.
Get back here!
Oh shit. Matthew, stop! I gripped hard on Matthew's shoulder, causing him to turn to me and letting me grab on his other shoulder. As I got a good look of his eyes, I gasped at the sight. His eyes were full of rage and anger as he panted in place. Whatever Simon did really made him go off the edge, or something was influencing him again. I suddenly became afraid, shaking underneath his gaze. Every fiber of my body completely began to spaz out as I became locked in his angry glare. What was happening to me? I opened my mouth to try and speak, but not sound would dare come out of my vocal cords. It was like I was too frightened to press him or stop him. Fuck. As Matthew continued to pant for air and stare at me, something in his mind slowly melted, causing his eyes to slowly widen in realization of what he had done and what he was about to do to Simon. The strange hold on my body faded away as his muscles relaxed, trying to breathe and regain control, or whatever had clouded his judgment. As it finally became apparent that he had returned to sanity, Matthew's eyes began to droop in sadness.
What am I doing?
Oh, damn, that sucks, dude. Matthew pulled away from me, placing his hands between us, and stepped back, staring at me in deep regret. I tried to step forward to try and comfort him, but he raised a hand to stop me, walking slowly over to the bed and sitting down, grasping his head.
Something happened to me. I don't know what.
I frowned as I slowly moved and sat next to him. In shame, Matthew covered his face and his hands and curled over his knee, digging his fingers into his forehead.
I keep hearing my mother's voice telling me to come home and save her. Whenever I do, I completely lose control of myself. I can't remember what I did or why I did it, but I always manage to do something wrong.
Yeah, that sucks. I grimaced, remembering the random attack on Diana. I placed my hand on his shoulder as he shuddered and shook his head again.
I gotta fix this. There's gotta be some way to stop it from happening to me.
Matthew. It was painful to see him struggling. Still, I couldn't understand why he had to fight this alone. Why not let the others help? Matthew let out a sigh and slumped his shoulders further.
And let them help me? Like they've always done?
I'm sure they would. As Matthew turned to me, I could practically see the shame in his eyes as he spoke.
Every time I was in trouble, they'd always come and help. Every time I do something, I'm treated like a damn kid.
This isn't the time, okay? This isn't like you need to reach the milk on the top shelf. Like, you're literally killing people, or trying to. Matthew turned his head away and gritted his teeth, forming fists and laying them on his knees, tightening them in aggravation.
There's a reason why I didn't ask them to help with the wedding. I don't want them babying me and doing everything like I'm some sort of stupid moron who needs everything done for him. I want to do this on my own. I can figure this out without their help. I'm not even the youngest, but they still treat me like I am, even Damien. I don't want that anymore.
I was speechless. Did Matthew really feel that kind of pressure from his brothers? My mind went back to the first day I had met him. How Eric treated Matthew like a little boy despite Matthew being close to his age. As the grimace of realization appeared on my lips, Matthew let out a shaky sigh.
I can't ask for their help. I'm sorry.
Great. Alright guys, well, let me know. I mean, I'm probably just going to decide to, well, they're both kind of nice. You guys decide what to do next time around, but we're going to pick this up next time. I do apologize for ending it right here, but I think right around here, depending on how much is left of the game, we might actually be able to knock this out in the next episode, which would be awesome, but you'll have to let me know if you guys have done the Matthew storyline. Either way, I'm really interested to see what happens. Like, Matthew, this is, I forgot why I was interested in him back when I did the demo, and again, now that picking it back up, I know why. And it's a story and it's a playthrough that's like, it's just weird, like how he's so different. Like he's a complete contrast of himself whenever he gets like that. So it'll be interesting to see why that's happening and how to fix it and all that stuff. But let me know if you're enjoying so far. I personally really am. I'm glad to get back to this. We don't have much left of this game, guys, aside from going back, once it's all done and doing all the, little choices we didn't do just to see what they would do. but we're going to get through the majority of them once we get through Damien and Diana, which are coming up very, very soon. So with that being said, definitely make sure you rate the video what you think it deserved, and if you did enjoy, please consider sharing the video as well. That kind of stuff really helps me out a lot, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or any social media really, or even word of mouth with your friends. That's really awesome too. Of course, it directly helps me as well as the entire community and is greatly appreciated. So with that being said, if you want to become a sage in training, make sure you subscribe today. And as always, this has been Mr. Basie, your favorite sage, and I'll see you in the next video.